Hey everybody, Bobo Rocket here with a Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video, and today we're going to take a look at mods. Mods can be a great mystery to many people, but as complicated as they are, once you understand the basics that go into mods and what certain aspects mean and the secondary stats and how all that works, mods are extremely straightforward, and I think you'll have more success if you understand. Now, understanding's only half of it. I mean, getting good mods, I've found, as being free to play, is really the most difficult part. And you'll see as we go through this, depending on who all I show, you're going to see that I don't have very good mods. I can tell you all about how they work, but that doesn't mean I have good ones. But I wanted to start up this real quick. It is Sunday, which means Cantina Energy is the guild thingamething. So we are going to farm. Do we want to do some crit damage or crit chance? Let's do a little bit more crit chance. Now, the point of what I'm going to do here is to grab a bunch of new mods, and then towards the end of the video, once we go over some of the basics, we'll kind of sort through some of the new mods to show what is probably okay to pump some currency into and ones that you shouldn't waste your time with at all. Now that's all relative. It really depends on where you're at in the game, how many credits that you have, all that. But let's go ahead and farm some up here. See if we can get some good ones. I could really use some more speed mods, which we didn't get any arrows at all, but we did get some colored ones, and that is very good, especially this one's being purple. Unfortunately, it's health, but could be worse. That's actually not too bad. What's this one? That one could be extremely useful on just about anybody, really. Mainly a tank, though. Okay, so I think we had a little bit more. Nope, we burned it all. So stay tuned, and we will get into everything about mods.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
Alright, so before we get too far into this, I think it's worth saying that this is probably going to be a longer video than normal. Maybe I'll cut it and make this more than one part, more than one video. But it's probably better served all in one. So you may need to watch it more than once. Maybe you have a good memory, because mods are a big thing to get your arms around, because they're a pretty detailed concept in this game. There's a lot to it. And in fact, in strategizing how to kind of explain everything, it's almost difficult to think where to start. So perhaps we had better start from the beginning. So first, the best place to get mods are the mod challenges. Now, don't concern yourself too much with what quote-unquote type of mods that you get. So if you can't farm speed mods yet or offense mods, it's largely unimportant, because until you have this huge plethora of mods at endgame, set bonuses aren't really that good. In fact, in my opinion, the only set bonus that's really significantly good is critical damage, because if you can get, I believe, 4 of them, you get 30% crit damage, and that's pretty good. All of the other set bonuses are pretty low. So first thing that I would say is, at least for now, depending on where you're at in the game, I wouldn't even worry about what part of the game, which one of these tables that you're farming your mods from. What is important, however, is to, as quickly as you can, in whichever one you select, to get to the third tier. that's where you're going to get the good mods. That's where you're going to get the potentially the 5-dot mods. And that's the first thing to talk about with mods is the dot level, the star level, whatever you want to call it. That is going to dictate how high the stats can go on the mod itself. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. 1-dot mods all the way up to 5-dot mods. The higher the dots, more dots, the better the stats are going to be. So you want to get yourself in whichever table that you're going to farm out of, you want to get yourself up to the 3rd tier as quickly as you possibly can. That way when you farm, you have more of a chance to be pulling the best mods that you can. Now in each one of these, you have the ability to draw any one of the mods. By any one, I mean any one that goes in the different slots. So that's the tables. And again, don't worry too much which one you're pulling it out of. Of course, it's a perk if you can get set bonuses, but that's not going to be the most important part, especially in the beginning. So now if we go in and look at the mods themselves. I don't even know who's got good mods. It doesn't really matter. Like I said earlier, none of my guys really have super good mods. So the first thing I think would be relevant to discuss is the difference between primary stats and secondary stats. Pretty straightforward. If we click on this mod here, you'll see it's got a primary stat and then a series of secondary stats underneath it. So a primary stat up top, that's a fixed number, meaning no matter what that primary stat is, it has a definite ceiling. It's fixed. It's not going to change from mod to mod. So if you have a 5-dot square mod, it's going to max out at a 5.5 offense. Well, not 5.5 because this is a level 14, so whatever. But that's going to stay the same. So a level 15 5-dot square is going to be the same as any other 5-dot square, maxed out. What is variable are the secondary stats. So there's your primary stat, there's your secondary stat. Now, we'll continue to discuss primary stats for right now because this, I think, is one of the more valuable things to know. So, in the first slot, that one that's highlighted there, the square, the only primary stat you will ever get in that slot is offense. That's just all there is. You won't see another square mod that's anything other on a primary stat than offense. Period. End of story. So when you're deciding which mod to put in that spot, your secondary stats are going to dictate what goes there. Now in the second one, the diamond, this will always be defense. It will never be anything other than defense. So again, your secondary stats are going to dictate what you put there. The circle down below here, this can be protection or health. And that's all it can be. So if you look at my other ones over here on the side, and they'll show down in the bottom right there, it's either health or health or health or protection. And that's all you're ever going to find in the circle spot. And quick note here, the way I look at it, and I think the way most people look at it, is on almost any character, you're going to want protection, just because that's going to be the most valuable stat there. The only exception to that really is going to be if it's a healer. So, because all healers in the game, with I think the exception maybe being Barris. Well, no, she has a little bit of a heal involved with her leveling out, but at any rate, healers heal based on the amount of health they have. So healers, you're probably going to want to go health. Everybody else, you're probably going to want to go protection right there, just so that they live as long as they can. So, do I have anything to replace his yet with? Probably that one. Okay, but we'll get back to that. Okay, so that's the left side of the board. So the square, always offense. Diamond, always defense. And the circle here is always either protection as a primary or health. Those are the easy ones. The ones on the right side get a little bit more confusing because both your arrow, triangle, and cross, first of all, they can, in every one of those, they can be offense, defense, health, protection. It can be any one of those. All three of them. There is some specifics to each slot, though. So all 4 can be one of those: offense, defense, health, or protection. Your triangle. Now, your triangle, in addition to the 4 already mentioned, can also be speed, accuracy, or critical avoidance. That's the only spot you're going to find those particular stats is on the arrow. So, to name them all again, it can be offense, defense, protection, health, speed, accuracy, or critical avoidance. So, we'll just leave the 4 out and say speed, accuracy, critical avoidance is the only thing that can be there. As you can see, I don't have a very good arrow mod on him, because in most instances, you won't want to have offense, defense. You won't want to have one of the 4 generic ones, usually. Now with him, Biggs, being a DPS kind of guy, considering I have crappy mods, yeah, offense isn't terrible, because it has a good amount of speed on it. Okay, so that's the arrow. For the triangle here, it's going to be one of the generic 4, so offense, defense, protection, or health. The 2 uniques it can be is critical chance and critical damage. So that's the only spot you can get crit chance, crit damage. And then down here in the cross, or plus sign, whatever you want to call it, this one's either going to be potency or tenacity, in addition to the generic 4. So as you can see, there's a lot more variables that go on with the right side of your little mods template versus the left side. So this one only offense, this one only defense. My boy's in bed and you hear him fiddling around through the monitor. Sorry about that. So anyways, top one offense, second one defense, this one either protection or health, and then these 3 can be offense, defense, protection, health. Arrow is speed, accuracy, critical avoidance. This one's critical chance or critical damage, and this one is tenacity or potency. So in a perfect world, I mean, obviously these 2 you can't do anything about. The circle is going to be protection unless it's a healer in most instances, unless you decide to build it differently. I would say in just about every scenario in the current state of the game, you're probably going to want a speed mod right there, because right now speed really is what decides between a winner and a loser in most scenarios, definitely not all. And if you have a unique approach to the game, more power to you. That's awesome. Right there, it's always going to depend on who it is. If it's a Lando, for example, you're probably going to want more crit chance there because you want his double down to be effective, but again, it's all in how you build it. And then down here, if it's somebody who applies negative status effects, you're going to want a higher potency. If it's somebody that doesn't, then you're going to most likely want it to be tenacity so they can resist those negative status effects. Not to say in some instances you might not want protection or something like that. But that is kind of the meal deal as far as your primary stats are concerned. So, now, with the crazy goulash that is your secondary stats. Secondary stats are kind of a whole different animal. For one, they can be basically anything. When you're leveling a stat, or a mod, from 1 to 15, you're going to get 4... what would you call them, intermediate levels, or basically upgrade points, and I believe they're at 3, 6, 9, and 12. So one of 2 things is going to happen based on the color of the mod. First, let's talk about the color of the mod, and then the rest of it will make sense. So the color of the mod goes in line directly with the color of gear. So if you've got white gear, that's your lowest quality, that's, you know, crappy, basically. Next is green. Okay, so again, another point about your white mods is, if you can see down here at the bottom right, it's got a primary stat, but 0 secondary stats. Now, your primary stat is going to continue to increase as you level it up to, and those are fixed numbers, so it becomes predictable and is predictable what those primary stats are going to do. Secondary stats is an entirely different animal. What's going to happen on a white mod is at levels 3, 6, 9, and 12 it's going to add another secondary stat at each of those points. So to get you up to 4 secondary stats. Those stats won't increase, and I point that out, and we'll get to why that's important here as we look at some of the other rarity of mods. So yeah, your white mods, lowest quality, gives you a primary stat and no secondary stats, but as you get them up to 12, you will acquire 4 random secondary stats. Now, green is going to be the next level up in quality. You get your primary stat, of course, and then you get 1 secondary stat. So what's going to happen when you level this mod is, because you know you have those 4 kind of leveling points at 3, 6, 9, and 12. So it's not going to add 4 secondary stats to give you 5 secondary stats. Every mod maxes out at 4 secondary stats, but what is going to happen is that defense will increase once, and then you will gain 3 more secondary stats to get you up to 4 secondary stats. So the higher quality the mod, the better you'll know whether it's going to be worth upgrading that mod or not. Now, in my opinion, defense is probably the worst stat in the game. It's going to probably do the least for you. So, you know, this is probably not a very good mod to roll the dice on because it's only a 3-dot mod and its starting secondary stat is defense. So the next quality mod is blue. Again, just like the gear. So you're going to have your primary stat and then 2 secondary stats. So what happens is you level this is you're going to acquire 2 more random secondary stats, and then 2 secondary stats are going to increase, if that makes sense, because 4 things have to trigger on that leveling, and that's what's going to happen. So you're going to gain 2 more secondary stats, and 2 of the secondary stats are going to increase. So blue, pretty good. On this particular mod, this isn't, I would call this a crap mod, because, I mean, typically speaking, your secondary stats aren't that good anyway, but some of them are, and those are the ones you really want to look out for. So that's a blue mod. Let's see if we can find a purple one. Yep, here is a purple mod. So you can see you've got 1 primary stat and 3 secondary stats. This is one we pulled, I believe, at the beginning of the video. This one is really good, probably for a healer. Like, this might be really good for like a Luminara. I don't know. It could probably be good on quite a few, and anything is better than nothing, so in all reality, it'd be good on just about anybody who doesn't have a mod right now. But as you see, you've got your primary stat, which is a fixed number. Secondary stats are variable, so they could be anything. So it's already got 3 secondary stats, so as you level it up to 3, 6, 9, and 12, you're going to add 1 more random secondary stat, and then 3 of these are going to be increased. Marvelous. And then you've got, and let me see if I've got one untouched yet. I don't believe I do. Yeah, I do, right there. Here we go. So this is a top quality gold mod. Now, as you can see, as I was going through here, I've got some that are gold, but all mods turn gold once you get them to 12. But what's important to look at is a brand new gold mod. Where was that? Right there. So these are what you farm for. Not this one in particular, because it's only a 3-dot mod. But this is the stuff, because you already know what this mod is capable of. It's got your primary stat, which is defense, which is unfortunate. And then you've got 4 already set secondary stats. So you know as you take this up, those specific secondary stats are going to increase. Whereas with a white mod, you have no secondary stats, so they're not going to increase as you level it, they're just going to appear. So for the sake of example, let's take this one and let's upgrade it. So There we go. Health increased. And that time the crit chance increased. Now that time health increased again, so we're not getting a very good random number here. Oh, and we're already up to 12. So there you have it. Those are the increases that we got. And this, unfortunately, I mean, it's definitely not a bad mod, but that's not a super juicy mod right there. So yeah, did we cover everything? So there are set bonuses, and in a perfect world you get set bonuses, but I think as you see here, you may agree with me on them not necessarily being something that you need to worry about per se. I definitely wouldn't think you should prioritize it above getting gold mods and getting the best stats that you can. So, for example, with the health mods, if you get 2 of them, you get plus 5% health. Defense mods, too, get you 5%. The crit damage ones, those are the ones that are pretty saucy. So if you get 2 crit damage mods, you're going to get 15%. And then a set of 4 gets you 30%. Crit chance, you can only, yeah, see, it gets up to, it's just, the numbers aren't very good as you go up on these other things, with the exception of maybe speed. Like if you can add 10% speed to somebody, depending on what you get their speed up to, that could be pretty significant. So in terms of what matters right now, it's really speed. I mean, so let's take this guy. So with Biggs, you know, in this spot, he can only get offense, so I want speed on him there, which I've got. I think, if I remember correctly, I think Ray is wearing, maybe GS is wearing pretty good, not great, but pretty good mods. So yeah, see, he's got offense, and it's got speed on it, and some protection, which is always nice. This one can only be defense, but it's got speed on it. It's got potency, which he doesn't need at all because he doesn't apply any negative status effects, but it's got some protection on it too, with some increased offense. This one I went with protection, of course, and he's got speed on that. So he's got, oh, and that's a primary of speed, 26 speed. The max on a 5-dot arrow is 30 speed, but that's not too bad. And then I got a crit damage bonus here because he's a critting fool, so I didn't see any reason to put crit chance on him. I decided to inflate his crit damage since he crits pretty often. And then down here, this is a really crappy mod actually, but whatever, it works. Like I said in the beginning, I don't have good mods, but you know, I have an understanding on how they work. So that's how mods work, and I think I've covered just about everything. I don't think the video ended up being nearly as long as I thought it would. I would say my biggest tips would be, of course, when you don't have mods, any mods are better than no mods. So if you've only got a handful of white mods, level them up. If you've got the extra credits, get them on somebody, because anything's better than nothing. Even if they're not leveled up, just get them on somebody. And I think that really about covers it. Let me know down in the comments if you've got any questions. Wow, I really have a lot of mods that I need to be putting on people. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions, if I missed anything. I don't think I did. I think I was able to really kind of simplify this pretty well. I hope it all made sense. And again, I think the most important things to come away from is that spot's offense for primary, that spot's defense for primary, that's either protection or health. Any one of these 3 on the right can be offense, defense. Said it so many times, it's become a tongue twister. Offense, defense, health, or protection. And then the arrow can either be speed, accuracy, and critical avoidance. This one can be, in addition to the main 4, crit chance or crit damage. And this one can be tenacity and potency. And again, a quick note there, potency is a stat that controls how well you apply negative status effects, and tenacity dictates how well you shut down negative status effects being put on you. So that's that. thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, if you would, smack the like button around. Subscribe if you want to be notified when I make these. Share if you know anybody that'd be into these. This one in particular, I've gotten a lot of requests for this one, and I just now finally got around to making it. And I thought it was going to be a lot more challenging than what it was, but it ended up coming out pretty well. And again, I think I've covered all the things that I wanted to cover on here, and I really hope it helped you get a better understanding of mods. If you would, leave a comment down below specifically to let me know if it helped, if it didn't help, and any other questions that you still have about the mods. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter if you would, at the Bobo Rocket. And as always, have fun, melt faces.